Welcome. I'm your host, Henri and welcome to the Future of Money podcast. My goal with this podcast is very simple. It's to go deep in some of the biggest ideas, trends, and developments we are seeing in the field of crypto, and hopefully empower you with this information and then let you make your own decision on what their impact can be on the future of money and finance. To do this, I invite each week one of the leading figures of the global crypto community to have a one-on-one conversation amongst crypto aficionados and discuss some of these topics. My guest today is Steve Kalifowitz, the Chief Marketing Officer at Crypto.com. One thing you may not know about Steve is that he was a volunteer firefighter in Long Island. So here you go. Even firefighting and crypto always come together. But for full disclosure, Crypto.com has been a sponsor of some of my other content channels in the past. Steve, great to have you with us today on the Future of Money podcast.
Great to be here, Henry.
So Steve, actually, before we talk, there's a lot of exciting topics I want to talk about, the intersection of crypto and marketing. I think, but it could be very useful for the benefit of our listeners if you can share a bit about your background, which is super interesting, and then we can take it from there.
Sure. I've tried to keep it interesting. My dream early on was get into the film business and, tell stories cinematically and really just travel around the world and meet people and experience new things. And I got to there faster than I thought I would. I was a producer at HBO for around 2001 to 2007. And it was around, between 2005, 2006, 2007, when the concept of new media came up, that I started getting really interested in how we can evolve media and the evolving role of media in our world. Right? TV was just one space. But all of a sudden the internet was starting to demand a lot of time from people. There's only 24 hours in a day. So how do we make that interesting and competitive with TV? Which, in some ways TV has lost out to the internet. And in some ways TV, like live sport, has actually won out because it gives something that the internet doesn't, or, they're complementary to each other. So in 2007, I actually left the TV business and went to an amazing digital agency called RGA in New York City. Probably most famous for work we did with Nike around building Nike Plus and things like that. And really, in 2007, there was no digital advertising industry. It was sort of like this weird thing off to the side. And that's where I feel like I got my MBA, where I actually learned about business and evolving mediums. And so I worked with RGA for about 6 years. In 2010, I moved to Singapore to help set up the business in Singapore and then Australia. And then in 2013, I moved over to Twitter when I got another itch to how do the platforms evolve here? It was before Twitter really had a robust revenue business. I think when I joined, we barely did 200 million globally. And when I left in 2017, we did over 2 billion globally. And while I was there, I was responsible for brand strategy across Asia and Middle East. And that was like another MBA on how does a platform figure out how to make money in general, not within the digital ecosystem, but then also in the broader marketing world, when you're fighting for TV money and on and on and on. So yeah, it's been a really fun ride and sort of learning all the different parts of the business I think it's helped me enormously in my current role.
We'll definitely talk about Twitter and the role of crypto Twitter that it plays as well, especially with the latest tipping feature that they enabled. One thing though, tell me about your role at Crypto.com. What does the Chief Marketing Officer at Crypto.com do on a day-to-day basis?
Sure. Chief Marketing Officer at Crypto.com wears many, many different hats, but fundamentally, I'm thinking about our brand. I'm thinking about how we communicate with our customers. And thinking about our customers today and how we serve them really well in terms of our communication. And I'm also thinking about the broader industry and our customers who are maybe a year and a half, 2 years out. I think what's super interesting and what drew me to Crypto.com and to join the industry in general is that this industry is still so new. There's still so much forget about what people on the outside are trying to figure out. There's so much that people on the inside of the industry are still figuring out. And that's a great thing because for me, that's what's so exciting about being here is that the rules have not yet been written. And that the for me as a chief marketing officer to build what I believe will be the first real crypto brand. When I joined crypto.com, my basic thesis was there was no real crypto brand yet. consumer brand, and I think we're within arm's length of being able to say for sure we are the crypto brand in the world.
So let's. I want to focus on a couple of issues. Let's deep dive in a couple of points I think that are relevant could be very useful for our audience. First of all, when somebody tells you about marketing in crypto, how do you find marketing in crypto is different from other industries, other B2C or other B2B industries?
Sure. So the crypto industry is in a very interesting place right now. There's a framework I like to reference that comes from a book that was written over 20 years ago called Crossing the Chasm. Yeah, and it describes this chasm where, a lot of technology companies fall in it. I'm not an MBA kind of guy, or a textbook MBA kind of guy, but it does kind of follow the path, right? So pre-2017 was the innovators. That's where people who were working with broken products and just trying to figure it out and connect things and make things. And then after 2017 until now was really the early adopters, the people who, it worked well enough. And, they'll deal with, it's hard to get money in. And then, I got to swap for that token to then get that token so I could buy this one. And it's an ERC20 token or what, and have all this technical stuff, which early adopters, they like it. That's part of why they're in it. And so when you're marketing to those people, they're not necessarily brand oriented per se. It's not that they don't want brand, but, their motivation is product or price, right? They have a job to do, and either you're offering them a product feature that no one else has, and so they'll come use it, or they want a better price and better price than what they're getting. And so brand loyalty isn't quite there. Sometimes it is, but their ability to move around is quite high. Their tolerance to change products and platforms is quite high. And so at that stage, marketing is generally just telling people, here's what I got, right? And they'll come because it's not mass quite yet. And it's a certain kind of customer who sees the world in a certain way. And then there's this chasm where, there's a gap. And on the other side of that gap is the early majority. And those are people who, they're less technical. They're less, after price or feature. They want a whole product that works. And they want to work with a brand that they can trust to deliver on that promise of I have a whole product and it works. And so when you think about even the adoption cycle of phones, right? Like I had a Trio 650 in 2005, 2006, right? I love that phone. And I remember like it was yesterday, people saying to me, what do you need this thing for? And I looked at their desk and I'm like, well, you have a BlackBerry on your desk. You have an iPod on your desk. You have a camera, a digital camera on your desk. And you have a phone on your desk, right? Separate from the BlackBerry, because the BlackBerry was for mostly email and you talked on a different phone. I was like, all of these devices are in this one beautiful phone. And I get to watch movies on this phone. It has an expandable, it had like expandable memory. I would download movies. And so, the people who didn't want a Trio 650 because it wasn't from a brand they knew, it wasn't a whole product, it had problems, right? When the iPhone came out, and sometimes for many of them it was the second iPhone, they just went for it. And when I remember seeing the iPhone, and I'm like, but I could do all this stuff and more. I have a keyboard on my Trio 650. What is this piece of glass? Right? So they're different customer bases. In the crypto world, we're really in that chasm where we're crossing it. We're becoming more and more mass. As Crypto.com research showed not too long ago, the industry doubled in size between January and May. We went from around 100 million to 200 million in a few months, doubled, and those massive numbers. So we're inching closer and closer towards the masses and going more and more mainstream, but we still have a big base of early adopters and innovators who need to be addressed in a certain way. They don't respond to regular marketing.
But Steve, as you mentioned, we're going from the crypto industry is going from the early adopters to that, the early majority. Do you think actually building a brand in the crypto industry is more difficult than other consumers or, B2C businesses?
That's a great question. I think building a brand is an incredibly hard thing to do anywhere. I think possibly one of the things that might be easier for me, at least at Crypto.com, versus maybe a DTC brand like Away or Warby Parker, for example, is that in many ways they're selling commodity products and brand is all they have. And so, like you're not, Away isn't necessarily better than a Rimowa, right? But Away built a brand and sold, a box that you use when you go traveling. Warby Parker, these are Warby Parkers actually. I love the brand. But are these better glasses than Giorgio Armani? Is there much of a difference? I don't know. But Warby Parker, oftentimes you respond to the brand, and so for them, their business lives and dies with the brand. I think here at Crypto.com, I can't speak for other crypto platforms, but we have an amazing product that, with or without brand, we have just an incredible product that serves a wide variety of users' needs and goes through the whole life cycle. If you're entry level and you just want to buy Bitcoin, or if you're a little bit more advanced and you want to use our Crypto.com Visa card, just the security and safety of knowing that it's easy to get your money out at any ATM or business that accepts Visa, you can use it. And so you get money in the system, you trade a little bit, and then if you need to take the money out, super easy. If you're more advanced, we have the Crypto.com exchange, right, which is great for high frequency traders and more advanced people. If you're into self-custody, we have DeFi wallet. We have our NFT platform. So we have an amazing ecosystem of products and services. We have the industry's biggest insurance policy. Regulation is top of our list. So, for me, I think it's relatively easy in that context to build a brand because it's off a really strong base. For me, it's how do I communicate the values that are baked into our products, which are solid.
Yeah. It's interesting. We've had Chris, the CEO of Crypto.com, in the past on the podcast. It's very impressive how do you guys execute on the product itself. But I just want to focus a couple elements as well, Steve. Of course, we're seeing now increasingly a lot of the crypto companies partner with sports brands. Obviously, Crypto.com, you guys did some deals recently with PSG, with UFC, with my favorite being from Montreal, Canada, with my Montreal Canadiens actually as well. And of course, the 76ers and other sports brands. And to be fair, it's not only
don't forget Lance Stroll, the Canadian driver of Aston Martin.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of Canadian connectivity there. But to be fair, it's not only Crypto.com, but other crypto companies as well have done a lot of brand partnerships recently with sports teams and venues and the likes. Why do you think so? Why do you think there's such a now connectivity between this professional sports and the crypto space?
Sure. First, I'd say, I'm really proud to have led the industry on this march. And, I could say it wasn't just as simple as walking in and saying, I want to sponsor a team. We started this at the end of last year. We said, we set out a strategy of we are going to partner with the best everywhere. We want to work with the best teams and leagues and athletes in the world to have genuine partnerships where we become a technology partner for them and where they work with us because they're great brands, right? It's not just that they're strong sports. They're great brands. They know how to speak to their fan base. They know what their fan base is interested in. And we want to talk to similar kinds of people. We want to reach people all over the world. And, as I said earlier, I'm not just thinking about the customers we serve today, but I'm thinking about what is the brand that I'm developing? What is the way you think about Crypto.com and the industry more broadly for people who might not be ready to come into the industry for another year or two, right? Because they're thinking about it now. And in a year or two, when they decide to come into the industry, who are they going to choose? And I want to be able to start developing that relationship with them now. And so that was the strategy early on. And I'm proud to say we were the first at every scale. We were the first crypto firm to do a deal with a Formula One team. We're the first, and I think to this day, still the only crypto brand to do a deal with an NHL team. We were the first crypto platform to do a deal with a national league, which was with Serie A, the Italian football league. I could go on. And as you said, Formula One, UFC, 76ers, the NBA team. I could keep going. Fnatic, our esports team, and we have some really interesting ones in the pipeline as well. For us, if I go back to my TV days and I started referencing it earlier, crypto is not just a transactional product. There's an element of culture to the industry, right? There's an element of being part of a movement, being part of the future of money. Right, and no pun intended with the podcast, but it really is. And I mean, if you look at what crypto is and its potential, there's something futuristic about it. And there is, that phrase, "The future's already here; it's just not evenly distributed." And so when we engage with our fans, when we meet people and want to spark a discussion with them, we want to come around cultural moments and passion points. And sport is one of the things that, no matter where you're from, it's easy to come around. And when crypto can come in an integrated manner and meet fans in those places, it naturally creates room for conversation. And our focus in the beginning was international sports that cross boundaries and borders. So which is why I'm so proud that we are deeply connected with UFC, where you see us on the shirt that every male fighter wears, on the shorts that every fighter wears, on the sports bras for the women. Even the cornermen are all wearing Crypto.com shirts. We're there on the octagon, and there's many other integrations that you'll see us come forward with. UFC serves a fan base of 625 million people around the world. The fights move around borders. Formula One, same thing. Every race is in a different country, not just different cities. They're constantly moving around. They have a fan base of over 400 million. Those two sports alone, we bring together 1 billion people and have real conversations with them around sports that they're passionate about, and location doesn't matter so much. And that's native to crypto, where it's a borderless business. So coming around passion points, coming around cultural moments, bringing people together and being able to spark conversations is a key point for us.
It's very interesting. I think you're right. I think sports is one of the few things, like you mentioned, culturally, yes, it's cross-border as well, very, very similar to crypto. I think it's very, very interesting from that perspective, Steve. But also, you were a pioneer in building the bridge between the crypto firms and sports teams. How did a lot of these leagues and organizations react when it came to them with a crypto proposition? Were they afraid? Were they knowledgeable on crypto? Were they embracing it? I'm very keen to see how was the initial reaction when sports and crypto first interacted.
Sure. So, I'll preface it by saying we've spoken with virtually every team and league in the world. We really set on the path to, we had our wish list, but again, we were watching from the side. When we went into it, we wanted to meet everybody and really identify great partners. Right? People who are going to partner with us, because these are long-term deals. This isn't just a short-term, let's do something, let's get a press release and move on. Our UFC deal is 10 years, right? We have long-term commitments to these properties, and it's based on partnership, right? And it's not about just doing NFTs. It's about partnering together to explore what is the value exchange between that brand, their fans, and the NFT technology. What can we offer them? Is it just highlights and memorabilia, which there's value there? Is it utility, with a little bit extra mapped on? The NFT industry is going to evolve rapidly. So we were genuinely looking for real partners. I would say in the beginning, in the early days, like in Q1 of this year, there was more trepidation because, maybe the commercial team or the partnerships team was interested in the space. A lot of them when we came to them, they said, it's interesting. We did a survey and an incredible number of our fans really want to learn more about crypto. Or a lot of our fans, know that crypto is the future. They haven't invested yet, but they're definitely interested in it. And that varies by geography. But, it was funny because as we were meeting people, they were acknowledged that it's a burgeoning industry and that their fan base really wants to learn more about it. And, there were different parts of each organization that might have been a little bit more nervous about it, again, in Q1, where they were like, well, but what's the regulation around crypto? Is it allowed? What's going on? What kind of business are you? And I think we were able to lead the way because the due diligence that everybody did on us passed with flying colors. And they saw that we're a legitimate business, that, we do things the right way, that, we have regulatory approvals where we need them, our incredibly deep relationship with Visa, on and on. As soon as they got comfortable with us, it just went, and then things compound, right? So after people see that we did a deal with F1, we did a deal with UFC, we did a deal with Aston Martin, all of a sudden, even deeper in the other organizations, they were like, oh yeah, I know those guys. I've seen them on TV a bunch of times. That makes sense. And things just move faster.
Steven, you mentioned NFTs, and I wanted to bring this topic up because do you believe, obviously now you've been pioneering a lot of NFTs with some of the brand sponsorships you've done, like the F1 is one, the Aston Martin one that pops to mind, and there's others like you mentioned. But do you believe in five years from now or 10 years from now, every single component of marketing will have an NFT element in it when it comes to building that brand value, trust value? Do you think this is NFTs when it comes to marketing and brand building are here to stay?
I think it's beyond that. I think the potential of NFTs and crypto in general is way bigger than marketing. When you look at Twitter's new thing that they announced just recently, where they're going to allow you to connect your wallet to your Twitter account and display your NFT as your profile photo, and I think also as your header image, and that they will have like a special way of indicating that you are actually the owner of that image. Like the utility there is unbelievable, and it's really starting to show the. We were talking with people about NFTs before the whole boom started, and they were scratching their heads, being like, "What are you talking about? Like people are going to buy, like they could just download it from wherever." And the answer I gave them consistently was, when I grew up, if you wanted to show you were a passionate fan of a certain band, like Led Zeppelin, let's say, you would buy a Led Zeppelin box set and it would be on your shelf. And without even having to put the music on, if people came over, they saw it, they would know that you're passionate, right? It's a way of projecting to the world your fandom. In the digital world, it's really hard to express your fandom, right? Because of the fact that you can just, you don't even buy music anymore. You pay Spotify, and there's nothing special about your experience listening to Spotify than others, or a way to show other certain people. Maybe you'll make a playlist. Okay, anybody can make a playlist, right? There's no way of showing that you're a super fan. Now, with the nature of NFTs, you can, right? For people today, young and old, we live our lives online, and the ability to show who we are and the different layers of who we are by acquiring, collecting, putting on display, and saying there's something special about owning this. There's only 100 of these, and I own one of them, right? It means that you have a deep connection, not just to that artist or to that idea, but you're also connected to the 99 other people who own those things. And so to your question of will it have a role with marketing, I think it's so much bigger than marketing. I think the marketing element is community. And I think that how we're going to be marketing in the future is going to change pretty dramatically. I mean, I don't feel like most marketers have understood the shift in marketing on social even. There's still a lot of marketing being done today the way it was done, 20, 30 years ago. The core opportunity with digital is to bring people together, right? Is to bring people who are passionate about a certain brand or product or service and bring them together and have that shared wonderful experience. That's what sports brands do, right? They're so good at bringing people together and having shared experiences that they feel like they're part of something bigger. And I think NFTs and crypto opens the door to that tremendously.
I think you raise a very good point. I think that really that showing of the belongingness, that you belong to a certain group, and the fact that there's scarcity to it, it has a big. I mean, we're talking about hockey before. I was recently back in Canada. I was looking at my good old hockey cards that I had as a kid, and I remember there's one of the things you want to show your brand association with your team and the likes. Right? It's very, very interesting. If you touched upon
what's the digital mirror of that today? Outside of NFTs, there's nothing.
Correct.
And if I could close full circle, right? If you see the boom in artists getting involved in NFTs, right? It's not just about them creating art and selling it. It's about them creating art and selling it, but then a community forming around that artist. And all of the people who bought it now having a relationship with each other. That's marketing, right? Like the way in which the artist introduces it. And now because you have NFTs, you have a token and you can exchange it for something, right? So now artists, even people like Snoop Dogg, are starting to work on things where, what do I give people who effectively invested in me, right? And that's marketing. You're keeping them involved and you're keeping the cycle going.
But do you think marketers, actually, let's just want to touch upon, let's say, Twitter. Obviously, crypto Twitter is pretty much the authority. Twitter probably plays an outsized role when it comes to the crypto space. And of course, you spent many years there. And you mentioned recently with the whole the tipping mechanism and NFT mechanism as well that is coming to play. Do you think most people in the crypto industry and firms in general make good use of these platforms like Twitter? Or do you think there's still a gap between how marketing, especially on crypto companies, takes place on some of these platforms?
I think that, again, we're going through a transition. And so Twitter is where people who are really into crypto live. Twitter, if we're being honest, Twitter is one of the smaller social networks, right? It's a fraction of the size of Instagram, and, TikTok just reported, I think, 1 billion users globally. Twitter is still hovering in the 300 million range. And so, Twitter isn't the whole world, but there's an outsized proportion of people who are really into crypto. And so I think marketers at crypto firms that I look at are using Twitter well for who is there. Right? There's a lot of insider speak, right? There's a lot of, code speak for anybody who's not into crypto, which it's good for the hardcore crypto people because you're reinforcing the relationship and your legitimacy, but it's really bad if you're trying to bring in new people who are normies, as crypto people like to refer to them as. If you want normies to come in, which everyone in the crypto world wants the normies because it means that asset values will rise. And just if you believe in the potential of the technology, you want as many people as possible to participate. But it's hard to invite people in when you're using a language they don't understand. And so I think, as I said, we're an industry in transition, and being able to address both audiences and be a legitimate player for both audiences is a hard line to a hard thing to stand on. I am extremely confident that crypto.com is already walking that line pretty well. And I think the winners in this industry will figure out how to speak to the people who are crypto natives and also be able to invite people who are not yet in the industry but want to figure out how to invite them.
And what is the role you see influencers will play in the future of crypto marketing? For example, right now in many other industries, when we look from anything from cosmetics to fashion to consumer goods, the influencers on certain platforms like Instagram and others have an outsized impact as well. What is, you think, the role of influencers in crypto? Do you think they're here to stay? And what do you think is the kind of the relationship between crypto platforms and these so-called influencers?
That's a great question. Influencers are here for every industry, right? I mean, there are people who are talking, that guy with the knives, who like with the salt stuff, and now like I see he's like selling knives and things like that because of how he like does his flair. All of a sudden he's a guy, or that woman on TikTok who critiques logos, right? And all of a sudden, now brands are running to her, asking her to, change their logo. I could go on and on. The concept of influencers, if we scale it back, is someone who has an opinion, is able to make entertaining content, build an audience, and speak to them. Oprah was an influencer in the days when to be an influencer, you had to get a TV show. Today, every one of us has a TV production studio in our pocket, and people are using it. And so fundamentally, I don't think that's going away. People who know how to be entertaining and know how to be super focused on something and build an audience, they will be influential over the audience who continues to speak to them. And there isn't an industry on earth or a product on earth that won't have somebody who's influential about it. It's definitely going to be there.
What industry, Steve, you look at for inspiration? Like outside of crypto, what industry you think has really nailed it when it comes to marketing, or they're ahead of the pack compared to other industries where I think the crypto industry can learn from?
That's a great question. I try to pull from different places for different needs. Apple, for example, Apple's probably one of the best companies out there in the world when it comes to marketing, in part because it's not because their marketing is beautiful, and it's not because their brand is so incredibly consistent, but because actually the needle that they've threaded is all of their ads are product demos, right? Shot on iPhone, right? People walk around thinking the iPhone has the best camera in the world because shot on iPhone. And you see these incredible photos that average people took that are the size of a building. And most people know that, to be able to make a picture that big, the quality needs to be high and all that, right? Because we've all blown up photos and they've come out grainy when we went to the, shop to get our pictures printed. The iPhone camera is not the best camera out there. But their ability to put an ad up there that makes you say, wow, Apple, amazing. But it's just a product demo. They're showing you what the product does. It takes beautiful pictures, right? Or, I forget the line from the ad, but, they had these billboards with the people, like the silhouettes of people leaning back, and the iPad was on their like legs, right? And, it was just like basically showing people enjoying themselves using the iPad, right? Like it's just, or, the iPod commercials, right? Where, 1,000 songs in your pocket. Product demo. It's just a product demo, but they've managed to balance brand and product so beautifully, where so many companies just really struggle to say this is what our brand is about, and here's the product we sell. Yeah. So I think Apple, consistently continues to be one of the best.
So before we move on, Steve, to the fire round question, and my Bell is here with me. Just one last question, really keen to get your view on it. What do you think is the biggest mistake crypto marketers are doing right now in the industry?
Probably spending too much time speaking to crypto natives and not enough time thinking about how to invite, people. I won't say the entire mainstream, but there is the early majority who are extremely interested in crypto and are just looking for a way in and a conversation to be had that doesn't make them feel dumb because they don't know what HODL means, or when they see HODL and they want to be like, someone made a typo. Don't make those people feel bad. We got to find a way to invite more people in.
Yeah, very, very wise words. I think when we talk about crossing the chasm at the start, I think this really relates to it, of the early majority. So, Steve, the bell is back. So we're going to go through a quick fire round of questions. So on these questions, I need like 1 or 2 word quick answers. And the bell is here to keep us honest and on time. Hope you're ready?
I hope so too.
Well, here we go. Let's kick it off. If there is one marketing book you recommend our listeners to read, what is that marketing book?
A book I picked up recently that I read a long time ago is Crossing the Chasm. I think I mentioned it earlier. Definitely, if you're in technology marketing, you need to understand the concepts of that book.
I love that book as well. I recommend it to anybody launching a new business. Great suggestion. Steve, what's your favorite thing to do on weekends or when you're not the CMO of Crypto.com? What do you do on your free time?
I'm going to be cliche and just like hang out with my kids.
What's let's say your career in marketing, what is, let's say, one of the favorite ad campaigns you will never forget? I know you mentioned some before, but what is the one ad campaign, a marketing campaign in any industry you think has been quite successful?
Just Do It continues to be the way that it continues to evolve is just amazing. It's unbelievable when you think of how long that has lasted and continues to resonate with people.
Yeah, great point, actually. What is the one place you like to find marketing talent? Where you think is a good place to find hidden marketing talent?
Twitter.
Oh, yeah. Good point, actually. What industry would you be in, Steve, if you're not in crypto? What's the one industry you would love to be in?
I'd love to go back and be a firefighter.
Firefighter, wow. That's amazing. If you could have lunch with one person, dead or alive, who would that person be?
One of the first ones that comes to mind is Theodore Roosevelt.
Yeah, Roosevelt. Awesome. What's your favorite, if there's like one of your recent favorite YouTube channels or Netflix series or HBO series that you love? What is one of your favorite ones?
Game of Thrones is one of the best.
Oh, absolutely. And favorite country to travel to?
In all honesty, I lived on a plane for almost 10 years. It's so hard to say one. Australia is one of my favorite countries.
There we go. So, Steve, again, thank you for being with us. Last question today. What is keeping you up at night right now? What is on your mind? What is keeping you up at night?
The speed of this industry. Crypto moves so fast.
Absolutely. I think you're absolutely right on that front. Well, Steve, thanks for being with us. How can people find you? Where can people find you? How they can connect with you?
Twitter, @Kalifowitz. It's probably the best place to reach me.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to put it in our show notes as well. Well, Steve, thank you for being with us. I think it was absolutely a great show. I have to say, I'm a big fan of I think the industry of marketing crypto is evolving so quickly. So thank you very much for being with us. That was Steve Kalifowitz, the Chief Marketing Officer at Crypto.com. Make sure to click subscribe if you like this podcast. We'll have a new episode coming up every other week. And if you want to stay on top of the latest developments on crypto and the future of money, make sure to follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter, especially for my weekly Crypto Capsule show, where I summarize some of the global crypto developments you need to know in less than 60 seconds. And also, don't forget to subscribe on LinkedIn to my weekly newsletter called The Future of Money, where I share the 3 big ideas on the future of money you need to know each week. And if you want to learn more about crypto, I think as Steve was mentioning today about bringing that early majority in, make sure to also check out my YouTube channel where I have not only videos on previous interviews, and the one with Steve will be on as well, but also a lot of crypto educational videos. And the good news now that all my video content is also available in French, Spanish, Arabic, and Mandarin Chinese as well on my various YouTube channels. So thank you very much, all of you, for joining me today on this episode of the Future Money Podcast. Steve, thank you very much for being with us again today, and see you all next time.